Hi, this is Erin Rabel-Wilson from Best Life Physical Therapy. I'm here today to talk to you about how to release the psoas muscle. A lot of times people will have SI joint dysfunction or low back pain, and the culprit is often the muscles in the front of our hips. They are actually hip flexors, and when we sit, those muscles tend to get tight, and then if you've been sitting for a prolonged time, you stand up and the muscle can't really lengthen out. So it can come on for different reasons. Sometimes we injure them with playing sports or just life in general. So when it happens, what we want to do is release the muscles. So the first thing that I do is have people go ahead and lie down on their backs. And then there's an inhibitory technique that's part of the Primal Reflex Release Technique that we can do. So what we're going to do is we're going to hike on the right hip. So I'm going to pretend like the left hip is the one that's the problem today. And we're going to bring our right hip up toward our rib cage on the right. The left leg, I'm going to use my left hand, I'm going to use my finger and my pinky finger and my ring finger to resist pushing away with my heel, through my heel. And I'm going to use my pointer finger and my ring finger to resist left rotation with my ankle. So basically I'm resisting away, I'm still hiked up on the right hip, I'm pushing away with my left hamstring and away to the left with my left hip, pushing that direction. And I want to hold this. I want to be able to, resist that motion for 45 seconds. So after I've resisted that motion for 45 seconds or so, then I will go ahead and, it's hard to hold all that stuff together, but you're going to bring that right hip toward the rib cage on the right. The left hip is resisting away and then outward with your ankle. And try to relax everything else if you can while you're doing that. And then relax it down. Once you relax it down, you can go back into this spot where your psoas is, where it's sore. And you'll find it, and what you might find is that it's less tender. Well, that's great, because now we're going to take a ball and we're going to lie over the ball to help to release that. So there's two spots that I want you to work on with this. The first spot is where you put your hands on your hips, that little crest of bone. You're going to put your hand right deep in there, and if you find a sore spot in there, that's where you're going to place the ball. So we're going to take our ball and leave it right there and roll onto the stomach. One of the things I want you to notice is that, okay, I've got the ball right there in that spot and I'm laying on it, and I can kind of feel the pressure there. But if I want to deepen the pressure, I'm going to go ahead and bring my right leg out to the side, and it's going to push me over a little bit more more pressure onto that spot. And so I might want to go ahead and lay my head down because it's a little too much pressure for me. So I'll lay down. And then when I get there, yeah, I can feel some pressure in that spot, and it feels like a deep, burny stretch, which is appropriate because this is a myofascial release technique, and it will feel like a deep, burny stretch. That is okay. So I know sometimes it's like scary, it hurts. Why should I push on it if it hurts? That's appropriate. That's what we're trying to do. Now this muscle is called the iliopsoas. It is made up of the iliacus and the psoas muscle. So there are actually two muscles that go in here. They're hip flexors. They bring the hip up. When we sit too long, they get tight. When you go to stand up, it won't let you stand up straight if it's too tight. So a lot of times I'll see people walking around, they're bent over from the waist, and the problem is that this muscle is way too tight. So we can just release it, and it can really free people up to stand up with much better posture and look taller, more confident in life, and be able to walk better without having pain with walking. Regardless if you've got arthritis in your back or whatever, if we can release this muscle, it takes a lot of the pressure off of the spine itself and allows them to move properly. So you notice that I've been sitting here for several minutes, lying here I should say, for several minutes. And as I've been lying here, I've been breathing. I'm going to take some deep breaths right into that spot because your diaphragm muscle is actually next door neighbors with that iliopsoas muscle. So if we can actually breathe into that spot, it will help it to release. And as as I've been lying here, the pain that I had from the ball has actually decreased a bit. So now I'm going to go ahead and try to move that ball over toward the psoas muscle. So I'm going to kind of straighten my leg back out again, come back up, and instead of it putting the ball right under my hip where the crest is, I'm going to bring it over to the belly button, go down 2 inches and over 2 inches, and we're going to lay directly on that spot. Get right in there where it might want to feel a little bit tight. And then if that's too much pressure, actually what I can do is I can take my left leg out to the side, take some pressure off of it until it's ready to accept the load. And so and I can feel more pressure when I straighten my leg out there. And now that I'm ready to go ahead and go a little bit deeper, I'm going to bring my right leg out to the side and push the weight a little bit more directly into that spot. Now this is located directly, connected directly to the discs of the spine at the lower back, L3, L4, L5, that area. So when that muscle gets tight, it's going to pull directly on the discs. And so it's that intimately connected to our low back. So it can be a very big cause for low back pain if this muscle's in spasm. So as we kind of bring that leg out to the side and you kind of rest down and take your deep breaths, feel the deep burning stretch, feel yourself relax over, you didn't even know you were holding on to all that tension. Feel yourself relax over the ball, let the ball sink into the muscle and allow it to release the muscle. So that's basically how to do your iliopsoas release with using a ball. I'm using a ball that's a little bit bigger than a lacrosse ball. A lacrosse ball actually works well. Some of my patients have actually used a bowl, like upside down, small bowl, put it there, and it just kind of doesn't roll around. It just stays right there and pushes that pressure right up into that muscle. So those are good options too. What I always recommend that people do after they've done their releases is go ahead and stand up and do some stretching on the muscle. So I'm going to bring myself all the way back here and show you how to do that stretch. So let me move this table out of the way. Good. Okay. So to do the stretch, you're going to go ahead and tuck your tail first, and then we're going to bring the opposite leg forward from the leg that we just stretched, and I want you to orient yourself so that your hips are facing the same direction as if they're headlights, and they're going to face directly forward on the wall. So we don't want to be shifted and rotated. So our feet are both facing the same direction, our hips are facing forward, tail is tucked, shift the weight forward a little bit, allow that front leg to bend, back leg's going to stay straight, and you should start to feel a little stretch in the front of that hip that we were just working on. Maybe go up into that muscle, up into your stomach, abdomen area. And then I like to go ahead and add an arm raise overhead, and then we can kind of add a side bend or a rotation to that stretch to deepen it as you get better and more loose in those muscles. Once you get up here with that side bend and rotation, go ahead and take some deep breaths. Remember, our next door neighbor is the diaphragm. Hold each stretch for 3 deep breaths and repeat that 3 times. And there is your SI joint, there is your psoas release program. Yours in good health.